Yeah, so I'm doing a face reveal for my season ranking of Death Battle this year. Anyway, if you want me to do predictions like this, just let me know in the comments or something. But I would be ranking the entire Death Battle series season as a whole this year, minus the boys episode, since that doesn't technically count. Number 20, Black Canary versus Sindel. This episode felt meaningless. Like, it just felt so pointless doing, and it's not helped by the sprite animation they did. It's not very good. The only pros I could say, the soundtrack is cool, and the research is fine. And also the way that Black Canary kills Sindel is a little weird. Like, her arm movement shouldn't have sent Sindel's head flying upwards. But anyway, following that one, we have Batgirl and Spider-Gwen. Janky animation, terrible soundtrack, bad sprites. This whole episode is just awful as a whole. It only gets above it because I like Spider-Gwen's model a little bit more than anything else in Black Canary and Sindel. Following that one, we have Zuko and Todoroki. This is by far the worst puppet animation they did all season by far. Their movements are so stiff and janky, and the soundtrack is horrible and repetitive. The hand-drawn stuff they did was pretty fucking cool. Sadly, they couldn't do that for the whole fight, even though that actually could have worked. And also, why not use the JUS sprites? It would be easier to use. Anyway, following that one, we have Gray and Esdeath. Gray and Esdeath is pretty bad. They fail to understand how both characters are. And also, Esdeath sounds like a bratty teenager if you really listen to her, and sounds nothing like her. And also the so-called questionable result they used. I'm not going to get into that, since I don't really care. Following Gray and Esdeath, we have Sanji versus Rock Lee. Disappointing. There could have been so much more they could have done with this fight. They could have had a Rock Lee ankle weight scene. They could have had an original Hidden Lotus. I don't want to hear that shit in the comments saying that, like, they didn't have the sprites or so and so for that when they did their hand-drawn shit. Just also do more hand-drawn things as well. The only thing I say that's good is the soundtrack. And back to the negatives, I guess, then. Okay, Lee is out of character, sounds nothing like a Lee. And blows through the gates way too quickly. And when Sanji's leg explodes, he has no reaction and one-shots Lee in the 8th gate. Okay. Next is Wonder Woman versus She-Ra. This one, I don't really get all the hate for it. I do agree the sprite they use for She-Ra is complete trash. And I agree with that one. And there's only like 14 good seconds of animation, and that would be the short fight scene they use. But besides that, everything about this just doesn't really work. Like, it doesn't go far enough to show how strong these two characters are. Anyway, speaking about not going far enough, Red versus Blue. A series known for its banter, hardly has any banter at all. Like, the animation is pretty good. Coming from it was basically free. They already had the sprites ready. Well, this episode was just a promotional episode and nothing else about that. And it felt kind of like they were trying to do another Rooster Teeth thing, like they do when they have a Ruby character. Anyway, Miles vs. Static is the best puppet animation of the season. The use of Miles and Static's abilities are very well used. Good voice acting. Good season opener. Okay, soundtrack is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool fight. So, anyway, following Miles and Static is Venom vs. Chrono. I only put this high because it's not as bad as people say it is, but I do agree that there were some missed opponents for both of them. Like, Chrono was supposed to fight somebody from Dead Man Wonderland, and Venom should have either fought Ken Kaneki, Alex Mercer, or somebody else, or JoJo. For example, Dotaro, for example. That's what I'm thinking of. But why? Why these two? I mean, the puppet animation fits Soul Eater's weird body proportions. And I like the aerial fight scene with the big yellow moon with teeth. That is very cool. And I love Venom's big speech he gives. It's about we are the darkness. And then his controller disconnects and he dies. But following that one, we have Leonardo versus Jason. This is only this high because I am a Power Rangers and TMT fan. And the sprite animation does fit the style they're going with here. There's not really much to say about this one. The soundtrack is okay, I guess. The death is pretty cool. The use of their abilities are actually pretty cool, I think. Okay. Next, we have Booster Gold versus Cable. This one is actually pretty cool. It's pretty fun because of the dynamic you have. You have Cable, who is super serious, and Booster Gold, who is just a huge joke. And it's funny seeing their banter play out. At least the time travel didn't really go far enough for me. Like, it would have been cool to see them go to different points in time a little more. The death is pretty cool. Soundtrack, also really good. Voice acting is also pretty good. Overall, just a pretty enjoyable episode. Following that one is John Talbane versus Saberwolf. The Halloween episode. The one that confirmed Dio versus Alucard. Or Buffy versus Blade, which would be one or the other. So, what do I think? This one is actually pretty good. The soundtrack, fantastic. The ending death scene is also great. The voice acting is fine, I guess. The nature of the fight feels pretty cool. And again, there's just not really much to talk about this one, but it's pretty good. Following that one is Danny Phantom versus Jake Long. The animation that actually gets better than how it started. Since when I first saw that preview, I was disappointed that they're gonna go down more bad puppet animation. Well, luckily it got better over time. The soundtrack is good. The use of Danny's abilities is also pretty good. The death actually kind of fits the style of Danny Phantom as a whole. And yeah, that's about it. Following Danny and Jake, we have Beerus and Galaxia. Again, a really good episode. I like Beerus' sprite animation. I do not like the two hand-drawn scenes. The ending scene for Beerus and Galaxia, I heard, was actually just a traced image. Man, the soundtrack is pretty good. Beerus' voice acting, fantastic. The death, fantastic. There's just a bunch of shit in here that's very, very good. Galaxia's voice acting is too over the top for me. And a little bit sounds like a brat, but I could look over that a little bit due to how good it was. Anyway, coming in next is Hulk vs. Bro, the season finale this year. Now this one is this high on the list is for one. It's their facial expressions is the main issue here, and the soundtrack. Both of those are not that good. The facial expressions for Hulk and Broly are terrible. The soundtrack I don't get the hype over at all. People say it's very good. I don't even see why people like it that much. But the positives do outweigh the negatives by a whole lot. This is the most destructive death battle. It has good animation besides the facial features they used. The way they destroy planets and galaxies and stars are very fucking cool to watch. So, a good way to end the season. Next up, we have Red Hood versus the Winter Soldier. Okay. One of my most wanted fights, so of course it's going to be a little higher, is the choreography is very good. The fighting's very good. Everything about this is really good besides the research. They didn't give any numbers at all. And that is disappointing. Because someone told me that he showed this to a few friends, the analysis, and they thought Red Hood should win by their own analysis. And also the soundtrack, I don't think is that good. I'll probably counteract it, but, you know. Okay, next, we're in the top 3 now, is Flash versus Archie Sonic. This one's here because it's actually really fucking good. And again, good puppet animation. Even though I think they should stop using it, since it could look terrible in some circumstances. But here, besides of that scene of them running, everything else is really damn good. Really good soundtrack. Really good voice acting. And a good use of the abilities, even though it did not go far enough. Again, Nemesis Bloodwraith explained this in his video. And number 2 is Goro versus Machamp. Their first 3D fight of the season. Oh wait, fuck, I forgot one. I'll get to that one really quick. This one has good sprite animation. That's right, good 3D animation, good soundtrack, good banter, even though one of them just says Machamp the entire time. Basically, this whole fight is just fun. It's love how big the mismatch is from the start. And, like, the arms, like, they're ripping up each other's arms was just great to watch. Fantastic episode. Anyway, The episode I forgot to mention was Genos and War Machine. Where would I put that? Probably like 7 then on the list. Because I think this fight actually proves that you could do hand-drawn fights for non-cartoon characters. And that is pretty cool. Even though Genos is out of character. Sorry, sounds nothing like Genos and doesn't say his catchphrase Incinerate. And does have a few repeating frames. But the soundtrack is fine. And I like how War Machine looks. I like how the characters look. Everything about this episode is either okay to good. But anyway, back to the best death battle of the year, in my opinion. And it's Obi-Wan versus Kakashi. This one has fantastic animation, fantastic sound design, a really good soundtrack, pretty good research, even though people say that you can't use legends, but those are the same people who say that, like, why wasn't the Susanoo used? This one's here because it is a very, very good animated fight by Devil's Artemis, who should definitely get more work for Death Battle one day. And that is my quick ranking of the Death Battle season as well. Thank you for watching.